So we've had a nice drink. I was talking about this natural process, and I want to get back to questions quickly, but first I'll say a bit more. This natural process of the self seeking itself. We could say there is no seeker as a person, right? The seeker is just the mind. The mind is seeking. It's consciousness searching for itself. And it's looking around in the mind. It's looking in the world. Looking for what? What is my nature? And it's trying to get all alone. It's like, I want to get all alone with myself in stillness so that I can know. So there's a natural process when this urge is aroused to go inward. Go inward. And that silence that starts happening comes naturally, that you begin to withdraw from certain activities. Come in. just began. One begins to withdraw from certain activities, not to reject life. It's just that certain things are no longer holding your attention. Certain friendships or activities are more about supporting a self-image or trying to get pleasure in a certain way. Being addicted to something, there's all kinds of scenes and activities that we get hooked on. But when this urge is aroused, there's a natural letting go. It's a natural renunciation. I say there's nothing to give up, like I give up this, I give up that. You only give something up when you have no more interest in it, when you don't think it's any more good for you, or it's served its purpose. And that's a natural giving up. Like, you didn't have to give up childhood to become an adult. You just evolved out of it. So you evolve from the mind that is extroverted. This is consciousness here. I'm not talking about an ego evolving. This consciousness is evolving from being identified with a mind or functioning as a mind that is totally addicted and distracted and identified out there. And remember, out there includes the mind, the thoughts and feelings and reactions. It moves from all of that to the subtler domain that is created by self-inquiry. Who am I? The light of attention starts to come back to my own, what is my nature, the one who's looking? What is the nature of this mind that I seem to be stuck in? And that starts to bring some stillness, because the world has become de-animated for you. It's no longer so entrancing. You develop less interest in your own emotions, your own judgments. You start to take them with more humor, with more distance. And you feel you start to taste your own vastness, your own purity. That's the sattvic mind. Sattva is that quality. It's a Sanskrit word. How you feel when you come out of yoga or meditation. You feel nice and light. So we're all spiritual seekers are just seeking this sattvic mind in which they can start to taste their true nature. It starts to shine through. And then you have a new passion. The passion that was for outer experiences starts to shift more into a passion for truth, a passion for self. It's a passion for love itself. Not that you can't enjoy music and dancing and dinner and everything that life offers, but the fundamental passion is for what's real. And this just pulls the energy of awareness onto itself. So instead of experiencing energy and opening only when you are at a special event or a festival or something, those things stop really doing it for you because you have seen through the illusion that it's coming from the festival and you start to experience life, the life force, the Shakti, as your own being, Kundalini, which is one with consciousness. We're talking about energy. You start to feel a free flow of energy that is filling up the body and mind without you having to go take the drug or go have a great time. You don't have to have a drink or 2 or 3 to have that release. You are already in that flow. So this happens naturally. And then you realize I'm not even the state of energetic expansion or which is always it's always shifting a little bit. I'm not even just the bliss. I'm the observer of it all, in which everything comes and goes. And the bliss of self-realization then is, yes, there's a great bliss in the beginning of the release of all your identity from everything. That's a great opening. But in the end, the bliss is just knowing that I am unchanging, I am always good. It's a confidence in being. I'm always here. It's confidence in your true nature, that the wisdom will function freely in all situations. That you where you're looking from becomes that love. That I am that love. And I don't have to feel a certain way to be that love. I don't always have to feel like I'm overflowing with love. It's more of an innocence. You're just innocent. Because even when you reach this absolute shift, you're not going to always feel overflowing bliss. You're not going to like every personality that comes your way. You're not going to. You're going to have certain ones that you resonate more with. But you can still love what? The essence. The essence of the other. Okay. Any more questions?
Yeah, I've got a question. I had this oneness enlightened moment in 2012. The first time in the frequencies of reconnective healing. So
oh yeah,
really amazing. I mean, everything is oneness. And then after a week it disappeared, so it's normal.
Yeah.
So I read all the books about healing, and now I experience when I give somebody a healing. I do this to soul body fusion. I feel I'm giving myself healing. So after that, I feel the ecstasy, I feel the joy, and then it disappears again. But I feel it very strong.
Yeah.
If I give somebody healing, I give myself healing.
Yes.
It's very strong at that moment, and then slowly disappears again. So
Yeah.
that's my personal experience, and maybe I'm looking for something to hold on to it. The peace and the...
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, the peace. Well, you have to see what obstructs. Is there anything creating suffering in your experience that takes peace, that obstructs peace? Is there what are the patterns, if there are any, that are still telling you that you are separate, that you are not enough, that something is not okay?
I think for my personal side, I have always problem with finishing something. I never finished something. It's really the curtains is going up. It's just
Okay. Yeah, forgive that. No mind is perfect, and with attention you can correct that pattern. But regarding the great expansion that happens when you meet with another, I mean, it's the same with my experience of spiritual teaching or guidance. When I'm seeing people all day long for guidance on Skype or in person, and there's a lot of energy gets opened up, and love and sacredness and silence, and it's like we're sharing a miracle in that moment, and the whole room is filled with that power. Sometimes it's so strong I can't speak after, or it's just the person's story has moved me so deeply. That fades, then that disappears. And that's fine, because in the ordinary moments, I just experience peace. So just look for, how are you unenlightening yourself, if at all? And shine your light on it. Have trust in the light in you that's always working. That's a Zen saying. It's always working. Just let it shine through whatever these obstacles are. And then when you meet others for healing, you
Yeah, well, I feel I'm on my way. I mean, I do it every morning, and every morning I feel good. So, I give the healings. I also feel good, but sometimes it just disappears. But I think it's normal. Just to accept it. That it's...
Yeah. Okay. Yes?
Can I ask a new question? Yes? Or?
Yes, a new question.
Yes. How are you dealing with stress? Have you arranged a life that you never have stress, or if you have to hurry, or much things, veel prikkels tegelijk komen op je af? How do you say it? Being overwhelmed by many impulses, or having to hurry. Can you feel peace in a state of hurry, or?
Yes. Okay, let me repeat the question, which I forgot to do for you. The question is, have I arranged a life without stress, and how do I react? How do I deal with stress, and can I have peace even in moments of hurry and stress? I think. Well, there's no such thing as a life without stress. There are moments of more busyness or things to do. There are moments of difficulty, but there's no suffering in them. There's just the intensity. Like if I'm rushing to catch a train or something, It doesn't happen that much. Now that I have experience planning my day and, I'm no longer a teenager. But when there is that intensity, it's just letting it happen and going with it. Okay. My last time I was flying to Holland, I was flying in January. I left my phone in the men's room. And I immediately knew I'd lost my phone, and the plane was boarding. So I was looking around very frantically for who do I bring this to? And I found the person, and actually a man came to me. The man who was behind the scenes organizing everything. He came right to me because it's his job. He said, "Sir, can I help you?" Because I was looking desperately, who do I bring this to? And I told him I lost my phone. And he made all the connections. And he had me wait. And someone had found it and given it to someone. So I had no problem with that experience. Everything had to be done very quickly.
But you also let it go? I mean, that's interesting because that's always works for me. If I'm really stressed, I say, okay, I let it go now, and most of the time, after 5 or 10 minutes, the answer came, or the solution came. I mean, you really set it out of your mind, and then your phone is back, or?
Okay, you're asking, do I set it out of my mind, or I don't. There's no letting it go, or there's just doing what has to be done. And yeah, if you're waiting, then you wait for the answer or the solution. There's no special technique I'm doing. It's just, this is what is. But I think what wisdom brings is knowing what's right for you and wrong for you, not having a life that is filled up with drama, with that's too busy. It removes a lot of shoulds and activities that you were pushing yourself to do, keeping yourself busy. So, no, I live a very peaceful life. It's my nature to be, mellow, and you can be liberated, you can be free and be more active. That your mind is naturally more active. You're supposed to be running a business or an orphanage or something. That could be right for you. It's not the case for me. I just live a simple life.
Yeah, that's the essence.
Yeah.
Because everybody has some kind of different essence.
Everyone has a different essence, yeah.
Different things to bring to the world. So
Yeah.
all kinds of qualities that manifest.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. She's saying everyone has a different essence and qualities that manifest differently. That's right. So you harmonize with that mind that you function through. Let it be as it is. And then life tells you, life moves you, do this. And you just go with it.
I look insane.
So question.
Yes.
Because I don't watch television, but do you watch television or read sometimes newspapers or any of that, or you just let it go?
I sometimes watch the news, sure, online, but I don't own a television. I do watch films. Yeah. I sometimes read the news, but I don't get obsessed with it. I like to study history. I like to study economics. I have many of those interests. Yeah. Yes.
Could you describe if it was if you experience it differently before and after your experience of more consciousness. Let's say that I presume that if you search for truth and those kinds of things, and if you look around and you see crazy worlds, and I think persons who look for truth and inkling to want to do something about it. And the experience of enlightenment is actually everything is at peace, everything is cool, and feeling okay. And but then you open your eyes, and the world hasn't changed.
Yeah.
Only how you feel about it. So how is your feeling? Did it change if you look out and you see the craziness? Because I have an inkling that I have to do something about it. So did it change in you after your experience of expanded consciousness?
Well, I felt prior to the time of realization that I felt moved to help people and to bring understanding and empathy and knowledge of psychology and things like this. So I had that inclination, which I think most of us have this feeling. We're here to help each other, to me, after the realization, it was just, knowing that our potential is really far greater than we think. You get a very strong feeling of where all the suffering is coming from. You know absolutely. Yes, and there's a movement to help, be of service and help. Not as I have to help them or fix the world, but just I'm moved to do this. I don't think much has changed there. I think it has less of a feeling of activism, though. In the time prior to the realization, when I was developing spiritual values and trying to heal my own mind, I was sometimes being righteous and being an idealist, and I know what's right and I know what's evil and what should be. There's a certain sort of self-righteousness that I had. I think is part of the mind identity. And that disappeared. Yeah. Like being on when you're on one side of the political spectrum and you say, there should be no war, there should be no jail, there should be no this, no that, and you just want to, see no evil. Like, let the world be.
Well, maybe the need or the desire to do good. I think everybody has it. But when you become more aligned with the whole, the wholeness, then the need for activity and the struggle maybe lessens, but I think it can also be your task.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Because it's also a talent and a power.
Mm-hmm.
So that only you can decide how that is.
I think as
For
long
you,
Yeah.
as you move lives, if you really
because I recognize it, really.
Yeah, I think if you touch lives and you get some, well, people waking up and opening up and really see that something is changing to what you bring out to the world, I think that's joyful and also good to experience that, to bring more light and
Yes.
awareness in people.
Yes. Sharing light and awareness with people. Yeah, brings
That's
joy.
important now.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, the paradox is maybe that when you know freedom, when you know yourself, you don't, this is my experience, I don't feel I have to awaken everyone. I don't see that there are these other people to awaken. The awakening is just the removing of the ignorance, right? So if consciousness comes through the mind and says, I want to understand, then there's a natural response. And you've heard sometimes that, well, the suffering in the world is just happening. Yes, it is just happening, but there's a reason it's happening, so we can have an intelligent response to it. Not just, well, it's just happening and it ends when it ends. Yes, okay, that's true. It ends when it ends and it's just happening. But there's a whole intelligence to this where when the self starts to ask, why am I suffering? Why is the world like this? Then within consciousness, through the use of the intellect, we look at it and we create an intelligent inquiry because there's ignorance of our true nature. This is why. So this is not an anti-intellectual, nihilistic approach.
You just said when you take away ignorance, and before you said become innocent again.
Yes.
That's ignorance and innocence. I think it's interesting to be aware of these two things, because sometimes they mix up.
They mix up, yes. Okay.
And it's not always easy to separate and to see what is what. Ignorance and innocence.
Okay. So Ruud is saying I talked about removing the ignorance, and I also talked about being restored to your innocence. And that these two have to be looked at closely because sometimes they're getting mixed up. Is that right? Yeah. Yeah, innocence in the spiritual sense is to be free of guilt, to be free of false knowledge, to be free of false knowledge, to be free of presumption. To know your original wholeness. It implies a purity, which consciousness is. This awareness that is always free and pure and loving. That is well-being itself. But then again, innocence has a relationship the word has a relationship to not knowing. The structure of the word innocence has something to do with not knowing. I said it's freedom from false knowledge, but spiritually speaking, innocence is a state of absolute knowledge. The knowing of what I am. The knowing of truth. It's self-luminous. Consciousness is self-luminous, self-knowing intelligence. So, in that sense, it's certainly not the ignorant innocence of unconsciousness. It's a deep wisdom. On the other side, the mind can be incredibly intelligent and know all kinds of things, and yet be functioning in spiritual ignorance, in the absence of self-knowing. So those who really know are innocent. They're both, you could say, we sometimes say an old soul, but old souls are most able to be like a child, happy, kind, joyful. As the Tao Te Ching says, you become as dignified as a king and as kind-hearted as a grandmother if you realize the source. If you don't realize the source yourself, you stumble in confusion, thinking you know, I know this, I know that. And I speak with spiritual seekers who've been doing for decades and decades all kinds of things, gathering knowledge, gathering beliefs. And they say, I'm not free. Why? Because you know too much. You have too many ideas. And some of these ideas are helpful, and there are things to discover. But if you're not simple yet in consciousness, and you're not able to have your relationships and your work exist in that simplicity and openness, then what's it all for? You're doing all these things with your energy and your mystic pyramids and all kinds of God knows what. And it's the same all around the world, I tell you. And I don't deny that some of these things are true and relevant and interesting, but what about you? Are you in your heart and mind resolved to your own simplicity, your own vastness? Because then you can have the knowledge, the news, the this, the that, but it doesn't clutter your space. Herman.
You sometimes used words like false knowledge, false mind, false consciousness. Mm-hmm. And can you explain a little bit why you use the word false and what? Because I can't have enough grip to understand what you mean.
Okay. So the question is, I'm using words like false knowledge or false consciousness, and what do I mean by that? The falsity. First of all, in consciousness, there's no true or false. There's just consciousness is what is. It's prior to everything you see. So consciousness is more important to me than my name, because consciousness is what observes my name, my personal history, my mind. And I've got myself entangled in all the patterns and the family stories that I was given, right? This was my experience, this was your experience. Being all entangled in the drama of thinking that you are these patterns and beliefs and thoughts and emotions. A sad person, a bold person, a shy person, a not enough person, an angry person. And all of that has been coming and going and coming and going, and identity has been changing throughout our whole lives. So all of that is false knowledge. It hasn't worked for us because it's not true. It's true that this was my experience. These are the thoughts I was having. Yes, that's the family I was brought up in. All that is true, but it never defined me. I'm the infinite. I'm not finite. I can't be defined. So that's false knowledge.
But somehow I have myself this conflict of the desireless of some wholeness and quietness that goes with it, and being the observer and having touch with the quietness and the peaceness that goes with it. And on the other hand, I have to say this full self of being and responsible and all these things. I feel in myself a big fear of even having some, I don't know how you say, the force of letting that go. I can feel it even as a destruction.
Okay.
And that's the conflict of let go, of let loose of these responsibilities, and definitely for myself and the children and everything that goes with it, for which I know that it is this false self and ideas and all
Okay.
that. I know, but even letting it go, it's
Okay.
get out of it or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think the question was you're wanting the wholeness and peace and the knowledge and that comes with all this, but you're afraid to let go of the whole.
I recognize this conflict in myself of both sides.
Both sides. You recognize.
It is weird that knowing that it is the wholeness, it's whole, it cannot be damaged. But on the other way, I have some kind of
Okay.
some very, very deep fear of this
Destruction. I understood you. Yeah. Let me just repeat. Yes. Okay. So there's a fear of the destruction of the wholeness, or the destruction that comes with letting go, or something like that. Well, what can be destroyed? What you are cannot be threatened. Nothing real can be threatened.
It's a knowing, but it's not a feeling.
You don't need a feeling. You don't exactly need a feeling. You just need to know it. A feeling is just a feeling. So just know that what you are is fine. And I'll help you to confirm it. I'm not just leaving you there. But know that you are awareness, as I am, as everyone in this room is. The universal presence, the love. The love that is in the intelligence that is informing how you care for your children, how you do the work you do, how you put on the right clothes in the morning for the weather. And that love and intelligence is functioning automatically. So the only question is, what is bringing you suffering? What is in the middle of that? What false idea is stuck in the mind, the deepest part of the mind? Yeah. But you're fighting. Yeah, okay. All right. Yeah. By the way, and you asked about my process, and I went through this fighting too, and the time of when you're overwhelmed by the patterns and you're gripped by all the emotions, and it's a big drama of healing. Okay, but what's the fear? What's the problem, really, if you look at it right now?
Yeah, there's also some deep fear of losing.
A deep fear of losing, destruction.
Yeah, myself. Some
Yeah,
parts of myself.
a fear of losing parts of yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's because we've built up the idea of ourselves as a construct of images of this person I think I am. And it's just ripping off the Band-Aid. You know, we say rip off the Band-Aid all at once instead of... So all this self-image is something we've surrounded ourselves with like a Band-Aid. We've taped up all our emotions and living in this thing that seems to give us safety, but is really creating a lot of pain. And then the fear to get out of it, because what's on the outside? It's like living in a jail cell, and someone says, you know, the door's open. And you go, well, maybe it is, but I'm not leaving this place, because I know it. But you are already no thing. You are already pure presence. What's there to lose? Find out. What can you lose? You're only going to lose whatever is not you, whatever's not essential. Just be the openness that you already are. Isn't it more happy and beautiful when you meet another in that transparency? Okay.
Well, I was thinking maybe this is the same as dying before you die.
Die before you die, yes. That's right, and nothing real dies.
Maybe that's the fear. I don't know, it's connected to that.
Thank you, I'm glad you said that, because it feels like a death.
Yeah.
It feels like a death of, it's like the death of everything I've known. It feels like you're really going through a death. Even the amount of energy that is released, a lot of times we're afraid of awakening because we think if we would cease to repress all of our energy, it would kill us. It's almost as if you would fear having an orgasm, because I would lose control. And so you do lose control. And so self-realization is similar to like an orgasm on an existential level. You give up this false control. You're just accepting the complete free flow of energy through consciousness without the idea without all the ideas that you've been clinging to keep the world out here and you in here. And you go through this energetic, like a dance with being constricted versus being free. And for a time, there may be a lot of energy moving through and just tears, as I said, tears, laughter, who knows? A lot of times what happens, people find themselves sobbing and they don't know why. You know, it's no particular sobbing, crying, and they don't know why. No particular emotion. So you go through this kind of releasing, but nothing's really dying.
Yeah, I think that's also the problem with a lot of parents and people. When somebody's crying, a child, they want to say, "Oh, stop crying," but crying is just letting go of emotions and letting go.
Yes.
So it's not good to say, stop crying because you need to cry because you let it out.
Yes. Yes.
That's also not good. I mean, you see a lot of children.
Yeah.
Stop crying, stop. Yeah.
So when you grow up and you are crying in 3 weeks as a grown man,
Yeah,
all
that's
your
good.
friends will say, "Oh, I don't cry."
That's good. That's releasing the energy, right?
Yeah.
You have to be brave.
Yeah. So he's saying it's like when you're a child, just in case it's not heard. It's like when we tell children to stop crying. And Renee's saying, when we're crying, it's just energy that needs to be released. And she's saying so if you're a grown man and you're crying for 3 weeks straight, everyone's going to think that something's crazy with you. Yeah. And this happened to me. I actually did cry for 3 weeks straight. This was years after the awakening. There was just this thing that happened, like a total, dark night of the soul, they call it, when you existentially, you're having everything removed. You might suddenly feel terror or just a chaotic, total chaos. And something just needs to be released. So I understood this is just, the past. This is just the universe inside. I don't have to figure out, which past life was it and what was it. No, just, And during that time, a friend said to me, ask God, ask the universe for it to be more gentle. But why should I do that? As if I know better. Instead, I should be the gentleness and let it happen. I'll be the gentleness that allows it to come through full force because it needs to. Instead of saying, "Oh, universe, be gentle, just make it a little," oh, come on. There's sugarcoating it. There was a Zen teacher, Suzuki Roshi, who taught in San Francisco, and he said, "Don't spoil your effort by seeking shelter. Go for it. Now you've opened everything up in consciousness, and all this stuff wants to come through and be released. So let it happen. Okay, kill me if you have to." People do that too. They really feel their body will die. So they sometimes come to the point of saying, "That's fine. Okay, if I have to die, if the body has to die, then let it die." But it doesn't. You're stuck with your body a little longer.
Even after ayahuasca and all that other stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah,
Being in a body.
it's fun.
Yeah.
It is fun.
It's fun.
Absolutely. Enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
short also.
Yeah, it's a short time, really. So what have you got to lose? That's a good meditation. What if you knew this body's going to die in 6 months for sure? For sure. What happens with a lot of people, they start to feel free once they accept it. Okay, that's the end of a lot of problems, isn't it? All the problems are going to be gone. So all of a sudden, the light of consciousness starts flowing. And you're free because you've died before the death happened.
You see this also with a lot of cancer patients.
Yeah.
They have the best time if they have to diagnose. Sometimes they get in fear, but otherwise they just try to live life full and then they really get the spiritual awakening.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yes.
You know the space Hubble. Maybe you know he's a Dutch astronaut.
Oh, okay. No, I don't know of him.
He's an astronaut. He was.
He was. Okay.
Now he's in space.
Okay.
But that's interesting because then he really opened up and said that was the best year of my life.
Okay, so this astronaut said he had cancer, and he said this last year was the best year of my life. Right. Right. It's not always that way for everyone, but it can be. Yeah. If they don't accept and they have so much they never have looked at.
I think for him it all goes well.
Mm-hmm. So is everyone clear? There's no special state to seek. There's no... Enlightenment is not an experience. It's an understanding that just removes the clouds. And then energy happens and all these things happen inside, and then you say, oh, that's the enlightenment. It was when the lightning came and the energy came and all that. But that wasn't the enlightenment. The enlightenment was just the understanding that cleared everything away and allowed all this unfolding to happen, that allowed your energy to open up and brought happiness. That wasn't an experience. It seems to be an experience at times because it comes with it tends to come with fireworks, inner fireworks. Yes.
Wisdom the same as understanding?
Wisdom the same as understanding? I use a little bit differently, but it's the same thing. I tend to say, first you're seeking the understanding that reveals your true nature, and then in your true nature is intrinsic wisdom functioning. Yeah. You can say that we're gaining wisdom too. We're gaining wisdom, which is understanding. And then we reach the fact that my nature is wisdom. My nature is spontaneous wisdom. The wisdom that when you have this wisdom, when you have this question answered, you've answered all questions. It's really something happening. Yes.
It's maybe a very deep or strange thing, but I know moments of wisdom, and I also have moments of not wisdom, but sometimes I talk very crazy now.
Okay,
Um,
brace yourself.
Feeling not in the wisdom, but in my mind I know there is wisdom.
Mhm.
But how I cannot tune in, even if I know it.
Okay, so he's saying sometimes there's wisdom in his experience and sometimes not wisdom, but even when he's not feeling in the wisdom, he's knowing there is wisdom, but he's not in touch with it. Is that it? Can't access it. Problem. When you are aware that you're out of wisdom, that's the beginning of wisdom, isn't it? And so then what happens? You're the observer of those states.
I'm getting frustrated because I cannot reach what I know.
And what do you know?
Is.
What do you know? What is then? Let's just try to...
I cannot say it if I'm not in touch with it. That I cannot say what I...
Well, what do you know yourself to be? That's the problem. That's the problem. What do you know yourself to be right now?
What do I know myself to be?
Yeah.
I also know that I have many sides.
I don't care about the sides, but what are you?
Who I am.
The sides belong to the personality, okay? They belong to the personality or the mind. But what are you? Aren't you the observer?
Yes.
Okay, open your eyes again. Now look at me. What's looking at me? Who or what is looking at me?
I know from the Matrix that reality, I know our electrical signals.
For God's sake, electrical signals from the Matrix. You don't know anything. You don't know. Well, wait. Okay, electrical signals, but is that what you know? Is that what you are aware of right now of yourself to be? You're not seeing electrical signals. No, what's looking out of your eyes is awareness. The same awareness looking out of my head. Right? Now forget about the brain and the eyes and everything that's allowing it to happen and all that. Forget it. You're thinking that you're a robot. Your consciousness. You can't reduce this consciousness to some little machine. You're going to try. The scientists are trying. In 1,000 years, they're not going to do it. It can't be reduced to anything. They're trying to say that it came from this little thing and that little thing. How can they do that? You have to have consciousness to be aware of anything. So how can you say this came before consciousness?
Consciousness is stillness, I think.
It's not stillness. Stillness is the absence of thoughts. Consciousness is still. It's unmoving. It's just pure awareness. Okay? It's behind your name. It's just pure knowing. It's the knower of still. When there's stillness, it knows that. Oh, the mind is still. Thoughts aren't happening. Peaceful. And then when thoughts are happening, it knows that. It's that which knows. So what is your name? Vart?
Bart.
Bart. Okay, are you your name? No. Are you your body? No. The body's just a vehicle. So you're the same presence as everyone in this room. So whenever you have moments of not wisdom, just come back to being the observer and ask yourself, where am I confused? What am I taking myself for? An emotion, a thought. Come back to who am I? Is that making sense?
Yes.
Gewoon je hersenactiviteit bekijken.
Yeah, you just look at everything, keep observing, and relax. There's nothing to get to. You can't lose what you are. The presence that's been here as Bart since childhood has never changed, has it? It's the same presence that's watching, that's knowing, that's observing. Okay?
Now I'm getting it.
You're getting it.
Yeah,
This last sentence, yes, it's just.
same.
I'm getting goosebumps here.
Yeah.
It's exactly. I remember as a child, there's someone inside.
Yeah.
He's still there.
Yeah, there's someone inside. You're getting that. Yeah.
Nothing changed.
Nothing changed.
All, even though everybody tries to mold you, to change you,
Yeah.
and if you let them do that, you become really sick.
Yes. If you let everyone mold you and change you. Yeah.
But it's not the others. It's not only the others that try to change you, but thoughts about
Yeah.
others want to change you.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
That's the mind.
And then you
That's the mind. So that's all
Yeah.
the mechanism.
Yeah.
That's not the awareness.
Maybe that are not the others, but only thoughts about others.
Right. Right. Then you have thoughts that become you have thoughts that you will try to change yourself. Right?
Yes. You start to believe.
Yeah.
And then you get the feeling you're not good enough.
Right.
And that's why some.
And you don't have any right to exist.
And life isn't going to happen, things aren't going to go well unless I become enough.
That's the reason why sometimes people change names. I mean, they want
Mhm.
another name and then they.
People change names, yeah. Another strategy.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yes.
It's 10 o'clock. Anyone who needs to go, it's okay if you want to go. If you want to stay longer, we'll stay longer with more questions. Hmm.
About Friday, what you said about you are not the thoughts. We know we're not the thoughts, but you said, but you are responsible for it.
Mhm.
That stayed with me all the time. So why? It's like NLP, or you're responsible. What
Oh,
you think, or,
okay.
What do you mean by it?
Okay, so I had said on Friday's meeting, you're not the thoughts, you're the observer of them, and yet you're responsible for them. I don't mean you're responsible for like controlling them, or you're guilty or not guilty with regard to your thoughts. I just mean that consciousness is experiencing a mind and a body within it. And so whatever appears before consciousness is its own creation, so to speak. So if I've got myself all confused and entangled in these thoughts of who I should be and how I should change or whatever, I'm either going to pretend there's no problem and deny that uh, deny my need for understanding, or I'm going to face up to the fact that there's an aspect of my experience, of human experience, that I don't understand, and it's causing problems. So you look at, to be responsible, I just mean that as being conscious, finding wisdom. You look at the thoughts and say, well, what is the nature of these thoughts? Can they harm me? Is it true? Do they define me? And then once you know, this is how thought functions, this is how emotion functions within me, within existence for everyone. The mind has its place, now it's no big deal. I've resolved the issue. Same with emotions. You have to understand how emotions work. Whether you consider yourself a big feeler, very sensitive, or not, you still have to understand what is emotion. And then once you understand it, all is allowed to function and flow without having to control it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's about that control. I thought when
I
you're
d-
responsible, it's like you have to control that.
Yeah. Right. No, I didn't mean control, just being aware. Yes?
If you are aware of these emotions and things that you talk about, then after that, and you live through it, then after that you can choose for a different thought.
A different thought, yes.
Or are you calling that controlling?
Oh, okay. So the question is, if you're aware of the thoughts and emotions, can you then choose for a different thought, or is that controlling? I would distinguish between there is inspired, creative, constructive thinking that comes from wisdom versus thought that is false. And when you notice a false thought, like I'm not enough or something, you look to the right thought, I am enough. And you choose that because it's accurate in your experience. You say, well, who am I? That's enough or not enough. If I'm the mind, then I'm never enough, because no mind is perfect, right? And if I'm consciousness, then I am enough, because I'm the source of all experience. I'm the same self that everyone has, and I'm unchanging. So you choose the thought that is true. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to catch a train.
Okay, good night then. Thank you for coming. Yeah, okay. You take care. Yes.
That's also a question. How can you find the balance between feeling responsible and you should do things, work, help people, and the other side of being lazy, everything is okay. If you have feelings that you are too tired, don't get out of bed or whatever.
Okay. How do you find the difference between being responsible and having to fix and help and contribute versus being lazy and not getting out of bed, or everything's just okay? Well, try laying in bed. Try laying in bed all week. It's not going to work. As long as there's a mind and body that are alive and functioning, that consciousness wants, that keeps alive, the mind and body is going to have jobs to do.
John Lennon did it for 1 week.
John Lennon did it for 1 week, that's right. And then he got back to living. Yeah, you can't, you could be, okay, you don't do much. That might be fine. But you see naturally what is there to do, that I'm moved to do. And you'll know. Like for me, there was just an inclination to write and to speak and to continue with certain aspects of life. It comes naturally. You don't have to, when you know your true nature as consciousness, you don't have to figure out the balance between being responsible and helping versus doing nothing. You just do what comes to you. It comes naturally when you're not blinded by confusion and should and guilt. It just comes. Did you want to say something?
Well, maybe it's a bit after the meal, but I think when you don't really have this consciousness yet, you are asking certain questions. And I, for myself, know people really close who are just sitting in the room and are afraid to do anything in life.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's also okay.
So people, when they're not awake and knowing their true nature, they are questioning, and sometimes, and you're saying some people do sit in their rooms doing nothing.
Yeah, because they are too afraid to let themselves be.
Because they're too afraid to live, yes.
Yeah, so they go gaming and then maybe they have enlightened moments or wisdom or smartness or intelligence or anything.
Mm-hmm.
They're just too afraid to get out there.
They're too afraid.
And
that's right.
Okay.
It's okay that they're afraid. That's right. Yeah, it is okay.
Maybe sometimes for me hard to look at, but it's
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's okay. We don't have to change that for them. They have their own process.
No, because then you're gaining something again, and then
Yeah.
it's just to allow who you are at this very moment. That's all.
Absolutely. Yeah. But when you know yourself, when you know your true nature, you shine through the fear. The fear's clouds, and you shine through all this heaviness and negativity. So that happens on its own. A question over there, yes.
What do you think about the memory of consciousness?
Memory of consciousness?
Yes, the memory of the conscious itself.
Can you say more? What do you mean about the memory of the conscious itself?
You triggered me from saying the child inside because I have an experience in regression.
Of what?
In regression.
In regression, yes.
Of literally imploding dying and imploding as a baby, and in my mind, my memory was not finished in my age, so I could not remember it. Actually, as a person, but in this session, I was also the observer, as well as having the total physical experience of being, and also being, of course, the adult, is also parts, but also the observer, and knowing. And on the other side, I asked if this, what I experienced, was quite heavy, it was really imploding and dying. And it did happen, actually, but I could not have known it. I never had to hear this part of my life.
Right.
So I've checked it with my So that comes to the question of how about the memory of the observer, of the consciousness.
Okay, so there was an experience of regression where there was a very early experience remembered of a dying and an implosion as a baby?
Yeah.
As a baby, yeah.
After a very hard, a long time of neglecting and pain.
Okay, after a very long...
Then I felt the consciousness wanting to ignore the pain, so start to implode more and more and more. And then, then just at the end of the body, as a flat line.
Okay.
And then at the moment of being of dying, I had also the physical reaction of getting alive again.
Okay.
Throughout the breathing of everything.
Okay.
And so actually it did happen.
Yes.
But I did not know.
Okay.
The regression.
The regression showed you. Yeah.
In all the parts.
Okay. So in the regression, there was a extreme neglect and pain going on, and then there was an actual death where consciousness was sort of leaving the body experience, and then there was a return of life, and this was all remembered in regression. Well, I guess you needed to remember that. The mind has memory, and this memory arose for you. It happened. What is, did it bring a resolution to you? Did it bring an understanding of your life?
Yes, it did give me some understanding.
It gave you some understanding.
From some very deep fear.
Deep fear, okay.
And at the same time, being less hard on myself.
Okay. So it brought less fear or it brought an understanding of the fear, and being less hard on yourself. Yeah. Okay. So that was the gift of the memory that was bringing to you through the regression. And as it said, in every experience, if it's a mystical experience on ayahuasca or a regression experience, it's only as good as your understanding of it. Every experience is only what it brings you is some understanding, so something it's bringing to you that stays with you. Otherwise, it just comes and goes. So if you have a glimpse of oneness or love or connection or something, the gift that it brought you was the knowledge that this love is in me or in existence. And in this case, the harvest of the experience is to understand the fear and how that fear started to get created, and to be less hard on yourself, to forgive that aspect of conditioning. So that makes you more free in your essence. Yeah.
Because behind fear is freedom.
Behind fear is freedom, yeah. Yeah. Understanding creates natural stillness. Understanding dissolves the division or duality, and then stillness comes because there's no more confusion, no more conflict. That's the stillness of awareness. Instead of a state that you have to create or sustain with control and technique, the real stillness in the presence is just from my understanding. It creates a quiet mind. I understand my nature. I understand where the train station is. I understand I have to eat. I understand my relationships. I understand my past. And I'm not defined by any of that. So now I have perspective. And that perspective, that ultimate perspective, creates peace. You have the absolute, which is consciousness, infinite, timeless, everywhere and nowhere, and the relative, all the things and events and people and situations. You put first things first. The absolute is prior to everything. It's the ground of everything on which everything's happening. So seeing from the absolute, seeing the relative from the absolute, resolves all the relationships. Because now I've got first things first. I'm no longer confusing myself for my emotions, for my persona, my job, my spiritual state. Am I peaceful enough? Am I blissful enough? Am I loving enough? I am love. I am peace. One more question, or a few more if we have time.
Well, my last question. How do you see meditation? And you also see this global meditation, like in TM and meditation practitioners. And there are, I think, 7,000. They want to get together and then create this consciousness that really scientific proof that how do you say, missed out?
The field?
Yeah, the crime goes down. So all these people came together in all these countries to create a form of world peace. I was also last Monday or something. I tried to also
Contribute, yeah.
to that, yeah. But do you see that also as maybe a solution to the problems we have, and maybe to really do collective meditation as
Collective meditation.
Schools, everything that that's something that we're missing in the Western world. I mean, schools, for example. Or
So how do I see the benefits of collective meditation and perhaps meditation in schools? Yeah, I don't know. I've heard of those studies about collective meditation in a city reducing crime, and it's possible. It sounds great. And it's people focusing their attention on the truth, the presence. And if we can get meditation, it doesn't have to be TM, into schools, I think that's great because it increases empathy and self-knowing at a young age. You can teach children meditation that is very simple, just observing your feelings, your body. You start to teach them to look inside. And this would be a great gift. I really am for that. So meditation, you know, it sometimes gets a bad rap we say in spiritual circles, where don't meditate because you're just going to trying to create enlightenment from meditation, and you reinforce the ego. But if you meditate with the right understanding, you don't agree. I don't agree either. If we meditate with the right understanding, you are just creating the stillness to see the truth. But it's really a dogma in some circles that if you're meditating, you're like going to be always searching, always trying to be a perfect meditator. That's only if you don't have the right understanding or teacher to show you. We just meditate to support your clarity, so you can see, you can feel your own being. Ah, yes, energy and emotion and thoughts are coming and going. I create time for stillness. It creates all kinds of benefits in the brain. So I think it's a great idea. Yes?
You say if you write a book.
Yes?
Is it available in Holland?
It will be available in Holland. The book that I'm writing. I'm writing 2, almost done. Yeah. Well, I've had a lot of things to do this year. So it's one book of longer essays. The other is short sayings. And they should be ready soon. But I'll make sure they're available in Holland as well. I know Amazon doesn't deliver to Holland for some reason.
I know. I paid 28 euros. A friend sent it. I let them send it to a friend in New York, and she sent it to me. 2 books, 28.
Wow. Okay.
Just the 2 books.
Yeah.
The books were $19 each.
Wow. Actually, there was a foreign publisher too that was connected to my publisher that asked. And it's a publisher in Europe. So I'll make sure that the books can be received in Holland. Yeah. Meanwhile, there are some writings on the website. Just a few, and on my blog for your enjoyment. Yes?
Is it possible to observe the observer?
No, it's the question is it possible to observe the observer? No, it's not. The real observer is pure consciousness. So consciousness, the only thing that can be observed is an object. I can observe this glass. I cannot observe consciousness because consciousness is not a thing. Consciousness is awareness, same thing. I know your book because I actually read the book. They said consciousness is this, awareness is that, and then you have this, that, and the other.
Well, no, it's kind of like an experience.
Okay, but
because I just read it and then I say it, I kind of experienced it.
okay, but what in every experience you have awareness and the object. So what is the observer that it's saying this is this and this is that? It's got to be the one that there's one consistent factor in every experience that I call awareness or consciousness, the same. Everyone's free to use different words for different things. But if you're saying there's an experience that's different from this, well, that's an experience, not the observer of it.
I'm not saying it's a different experience. I'm saying there's more behind.
Well, what is it? What's behind?
Well, if you have the eye who is observing, you can even observe what is observing. Because, like I'm saying, this is my experience. I don't want you to agree or anyone or
Oh, no problem. No problem. No, let's really just. I want to know. I don't.
Well, for me, it's. I'm just starting this,
Okay.
so I've been practicing for few weeks. Well, and yeah, I think it's given me more space and even more space. And it's becoming more home, and it's becoming wider.
Yeah, beautiful.
And more, peaceful also.
It's becoming wider and more peaceful. Well, the way I would understand it, and the way I'm seeing that experience of observing the observer, what I think is really happening is consciousness is self-luminous. It knows that it's watching. It knows I am observing. And that could be called observing the observer, because it's like I know myself. But it's in the only thing that makes sense to me is to say that it's not that there's awareness here and then there's awareness here and here and here. No, this is awareness observing itself. And I don't see where to draw the line between.
There are no lines.
Okay, no. So do you? Okay, so do you? Yeah.
I don't experience a line.
You don't experience a line. So do you like how I said it? Would you accept that how I said it? Awareness is aware of itself.
Well, I think so.
Or do you you say there's awareness here, there's consciousness here, and there's.
I'm not that far
Okay.
to give words to it.
Okay.
So I'm just experiencing it, and well.
Yeah.
Is it possible?
Yeah.
Now I can.
Okay. Yeah. No, this is good. Yeah.
Is it possible that you are emptiness, wherein awareness exists?
Yeah. Well, emptiness. This is also in the book, and I actually liked what I glanced through the book you brought. But emptiness has been used in different ways, right? It's been used as a metaphor in different ways. The way I use it and understand it is that awareness that has been described as emptiness because it's just, it contains all experiences, but in and of itself, it's just this like mirror-like thing that's looking out of your eyes, right? It's just knowing. It's just presence. And then you say, oh, I know this, I know that, I know that. But in and of itself, awareness is like a mirror that knows itself. We call that emptiness. It's not anything. It's the knowing in which everything is happening.
Is it possible that you are the unknowing?
Unknowing? Well, how do you...
I don't know.
Well, then you're in the unknowing. Well, but you're not unknowing. You are knowing. You are observing. You, awareness, know all of your experiences. Yes? So what is unknowing?
Unknowing is a place where everything can exist.
Okay. So it's just
Okay.
a place where everything can exist. Yeah. See, by unknowing, when you use it that way, it means this is a consciousness is the light that is. It's not knowing itself as an object. It's just pure awareness. It's not knowing or grasping anything. It's just the space in which everything is.
Yeah,
Now,
because in the book, emptiness is what he's just saying.
emptiness, yeah.
It's about the place where everything can exist.
But to me, there's only one of those places, one of those knowers, one of those observers, one awareness, one consciousness, all the same thing.
Yeah, but it can be one still.
It is one, yeah. These are all, I'm just clarifying, to me it's all different words for the one. There's only one consciousness in every experience. And we use different words for it. But sometimes people are saying, go beyond awareness. Where are you going? Where can you go? How? I know. Or go to the void beyond awareness. But there's no void. If you are aware of a void, that's awareness being aware of the void. So we can say awareness is like emptiness or a void in itself. But it's not nothing. It's an intelligent knowing. So that's just clarifying how I use the terms that make sense to me. If it makes sense for you, then great.
It's the same with the law of one.
The law of one?
Yeah, that's also one of the David Wilcock's law of one. Everything is one, and that's the same thing.
Yeah, the fundamental notion of non-duality is there's only one reality, right? I mean, there are different aspects of reality. We could say there are different dimensions that we may not be aware of right now. But if I can know that they exist, then that means there's a factor that's uniting them. If I say there's this dimension, that one, and that one, or these different realities, well, if I know of all of those, then it must be that they belong all together. Right? Otherwise I would have no idea of them. So what reality is there other than consciousness? That's why we say it's ultimate.
We also see in other countries that awareness is rising. I mean, my opinion, it's rising.
Is awareness rising?
Yeah, I mean, in the planet.
Yeah. Well, is the knowing of awareness rising? Awareness itself is always the same. Yeah. Is the knowing, is the awakening to awareness increasing? That I don't know. I don't really know. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. We hope so. Because it's nice. It's good. It's helpful. Okay, let's end. Good to be with you all. Yeah. I'll be in Zwolle tomorrow. And then I go back to Bergen just to relax a little. And if you want to write to me, go to my website, michaeldamian.org. Send me emails how you're doing. Ask questions. I'll answer by email. I can meet with you on Skype if ever you wish to answer questions. No problem. Facebook, you can find me as well. Thank you to Yolanda and Ruth for arranging. Ariel, thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be here.
Well, it was our pleasure to have you here. And thank you very much.